Kinder Morgan, an oil company based in America, is planning to triple its pipeline capacity in Canada. They want to do a $5.4 billion project. And in order to get that approved in Canada, they have to send a proposal to the federal government there. Well, their proposal talks about oil spills, and they say, hey, you know what? Of course, there are downsides to oil spills, but there's actually a potential upside to an oil spill. So according to the proposal, pipeline spills can have both positive and negative effects on local and regional economies, both in the short and long term. Spill response and cleanup creates business and employment opportunities for affected communities, regions, and cleanup service providers.
So now what we see here is actually the Republicans are all right, that the Keystone XL pipeline will be a job creator. Because think of all the jobs that are going to be created when the oil spills.
Yes, it's amazing. My uncle, he's been out of work. He's an otter cleaner, and he's waiting for an oil spill so he can start cleaning some otters. I mean, how is he going to clean it?
It's been dull since the Valdez.
You don't spill any oil. How am I going to get a job?
Yeah, us liberals are always focusing on the negatives, right? There's this huge positive effect of oil spills, and we've just been ignoring it the entire time.
And those people who clean them up, they have to stay in hotels. That's great for the hospitality.
Didn't think about that. Didn't think about that. That's good thinking.
Fill the rooms.
I wouldn't be surprised if they would include that in their proposal. It's insane that they would. And look, as you know, news analysts, as people who talk about the news and have these types of discussions, we're expected to have these types of discussions, right? But when it comes to politicians in the United States, I feel like they wouldn't be as critical about this proposal as the politicians in Canada. So I'm going to give you an example right now. One politician, Kennedy Stewart, an MP for a region that would be impacted by this pipeline, says the following: "We know Kinder Morgan is using every trick in the book to push this pipeline through our community, but this takes the cake, proposing that a spill would actually be good for the local economy. The assertion shows the utter disregard this company has for British Columbians," right? So he's
How
against
many British
it.
people live in Colombia? It seems like a small number that we're spending all this time.
So I love the fact that he was critical about this. It's great. But at the same time, we have politicians here in the United States that want to get the president, pressure the president to approve the construction of the Keystone XL pipeline. No questions asked. Don't do any studies on the environment. Don't do any studies on oil spills or the impact that it'll have on local communities. Just do it, do it, do it. Case in point, Mary Landrieu, who is a senator here in the United States. She is also the head of which committee? The head of the Senate Energy and Natural Resources Committee. Here's what she had to say during a recent interview.
We can't figure out why the president doesn't go ahead and just let this thing get through. What's going to happen? Is the Keystone Pipeline and is the bill going to pass?
Well, Joe, I hope so. I've been working for over a year with Senator Hoeven. I think the Keystone Pipeline should have been built a year ago. It's been too slow. The process has been too slow. We've already built 2.9 million miles of pipe in this country. And news for everybody, we have to build more. I want America to be energy independent, and we can.
It's the first time that anyone has mentioned North Dakota Senator John Hoeven on TV, so that was pretty exciting for him. Mary Landrieu is understandably taking this position and has been consistently. When you look at the politics of it, she is up for re-election this year. Her races have been decided by as little as 1,000, I think maybe 2,000 votes, really small percentages, and she lives in a petroleum dependent state in Louisiana. So, but by the same token, she is a smart woman who should be able to understand why the president is, sitting on the fence with this thing and why it's not just the slam dunk that Joe Scarborough pretends that it is.
It's just all smoke and mirrors, right? Because this pipeline is not going to make the United States energy independent. This is a pipeline to take oil from Canada and move it out of the goddamn continent. This isn't to keep oil in this continent.
And the smoke and mirrors is what they do in an election year, because that's when you need the smoke and that's when you need the mirrors. You need the people in your state to believe that, oh, my senator who's running for re-election wants us to be energy independent, and this is how we're energy independent. So boom, it's done. When in fact that has nothing to do with the reality.
Right, so it's like an insidious lie, right? So she knows that what's going to happen is oil spills that will, who knows what's going to happen, what's going to be the deleterious effects to the environment in the United States. She knows that this isn't going to make us energy independent, so she's just kind of lying. So it just goes to show you again, Ralph Nader was right. that Mary Landrieu's a Democrat and whoever she's running against, but they're the same. They're bought and sold by the same people. Mary Landrieu, maybe she's for gay rights. I don't know. Maybe she's around the margins. She's not as horrible.
She's not. I mean, she is. First of all, she's not horrible across the board.
That's what I'm saying. Maybe on the margins.
And on this issue, she's a senator from Louisiana, and there are petroleum, interests in that state. It would behoove her to support this.
Yeah, but
so she goes
to lie about it.
But to lie, she does not have to lie about it because she is going after the least common denominator in her state with these arguments.
So it actually gets worse because it goes from misinformation to straight out fear mongering. She starts discussing Russia and how important it is for us to focus on what's happening in Russia and how energy independence in the United States is extremely critical. Here's her reasoning. Take a look.
Do you believe that it's politics that's stopping the president from supporting Keystone?
Well, honestly, I think he has some serious questions about how much it would contribute to to the deteriorating climate situation. But as you look at the facts, and you all know them as well as I do, it's a rounding error. I mean, it's basically less than, a third of 1% of additional carbon to the atmosphere. And Joe, what I think you and Mika would appreciate is that the industry, which gets beaten up in Washington, sometimes by both sides, has been doing a really good job on efficiency and reducing our carbon output. And I think when Americans look at what's happening in Russia right now and the Ukraine, I think it sends shivers up their spine, and it should.
But what's incredible about that interview is that no one questioned the misinformation that she was giving. And I love how she makes a reference to the facts. I know the facts, you know the facts, we both know the facts. No, neither one of you, well, one of you might know the facts,
here's one
but
fact,
it's twisting
but
the
everything
truth.
else is going to be a lie.
Right.
I'll give you one fact, and then I will couch it with a bunch of lies or misinformation, which is tantamount to lying. So I think absolutely when that Landrieu has another agenda here. She is terrified, and the Democrats are terrified that she loses her seat because she is a big cog in the Democratic majority in the Senate, which today they said it has an 82% chance of losing, that the party has an 82% chance of losing their majority. I don't know who to cite for that, but this is a big seat. They're willing to let her go it alone on this so that they can keep their majorities, especially in the Judiciary Committee, because they're terrified as hell that Ruth Bader Ginsburg is going to leave the bench.